So we're back here with Mark Beiderwieden, having an absolute awesome conversation. It's really been incredible. I don't know what session this is, but we're well on the road, probably 4 or 5 at this point. In this next session, what I want to discuss is compliance and why it is critically important to be compliant with the rules of whatever country you're in and the fallout if you're not compliant. So Mark, thank you for having this particular discussion with me. I think this is a really, really important discussion. So let's just start off with why is the MLM space got such heavy compliance regulations around it? What is the reason for that?
Why? Because it's suffered a past where there have been reputation issues because either companies or its representatives in the field have practiced activities that have caused issues. And when these issues are single and one-offs, then okay, any business, any industry. But when they come together and they start to percolate and they become a mass, then people like regulators and consumer protection agencies and things like that get whiff of it, and they want to start to understand it, and they don't understand, and so they come in with regulations and they come in with new laws and things like that, and then we have to deal with it, and it's unfortunate is that it's, where does it all come from? Compliance, I hate to say, it's kind of, when the lawyer or the person in charge of technical regulatory or rules or whatever is in the boardroom and starts their 30-minute presentation, oftentimes that's when the CEO stands up and goes out to take a phone call, right? Because it's not the topic that everybody gets excited about. But it is the topic that you should get excited about, or at least respect the most, because it's the one that can bring you down the fastest or cause you the most problems when you get that knock on the door, or you get that letter in your mailbox that says, we have this many complaints, or we think that your products aren't compliant, or your compensation plan doesn't work in this country, or is illegal, or whatever else is out there that needs to be compliant.
So can I make the statement that compliance is a good thing? And that the regulatory bodies, having them there is a good thing.
Compliance is your obligation. Right? It's something you have to do. It's not good or bad. It is a prerequisite to doing business.
Okay, let's draw a comparison for this, okay? Just for the CEOs out there to sort of paint a picture. One of the reasons compliance is there, as you said, is because people are doing dumbass things and creating problems in the field and reputational damage to the industry as a whole. So
most typical product claims and income claims.
Yes.
Most typical. But the list is much longer than that.
Yeah, it's huge. They could have structured their compensation plan to be a pure pyramid. They could be paying people on recruiting. There's like a ton of stuff.
Products that aren't registered in the market yet. You name it.
Yeah. So compliance is there actually to protect the network and to protect the consumer at the end of the day.
Yes.
And would you, let's just say you're a CEO of a company, would you be excited about the fact that there is that we do away with the FAA and airplanes can do what the hell they like? Airplane companies, they can take off without doing checks, they can, whatever they like, they can get on with it. How would you feel about getting into a plane where there are no regulations in place?
Well, let's just go dive in a submarine.
Well, 100%. That's topical right at the moment. Right. No regulations in place and people died.
Right.
So the issue is that regulations are important to make sure that everybody is doing the right thing.
Right.
Now, you might be a CEO, completely honest, ethical, etc., abiding by all the rules. You could have somebody else who's not abiding by the rules, right, and that damages.
Which brings back to your first question. Why do we have compounded regulations and restrictions that we have to deal with? Because of history.
Exactly.
Because over time, there's been enough non-compliance issues. Associations have not been able to deal with it. Regulators have had to come in and step in. There's been fights. There's been clarification of where the lines are and so on, and what is a pyramid and what's not, and what is allowed to be paid for and what's not, what can be incentivized and what can't be, what product claims and who's liable, right, and so on. Remember, in this world of direct selling, irrespective of whatever your lawyer says is the relationship, the legal relationship between your field representatives and the corporation itself, no matter what that insulation is that the lawyers put in place, in the public opinion, your reputation, whatever that single representative does, that's as good as the company talking. It doesn't matter anymore what the lawyer says is your insulation legally, because public perception is that person is the representative of my blue sky company, and if he said that, then that is the corporate message. Whether
And
you like
if
it
you
or
go
not.
to court and you get deemed to be a pyramid scheme or whatever,
You cannot Pontius Pilate this one.
exactly, the buck stops with you.
Yes.
So what are the ramifications if things go pear-shaped? What potentially is the ramifications? You weren't compliant. What happens?
So my comments have nothing to do with any particular company, because I have seen compliant issues now in many different situations. But I have seen non-compliant situations with products where the registered legal representative of the company in that country, where it went from being a misdemeanor to an actual criminal offense because of the number of warnings that were not paid attention to, and the products were not registered, although they were told to be registered, and there was a process that was being followed and ignored. So when
that becomes criminal.
That
Then
becomes
what
criminal.
happens?
Well, if you lose, then you take the criminal
go to
responsibility. You can go to jail. There's no ifs and I have seen over time. I have seen in multiple countries, and you can go online. I'm not going to mention names here, but there are countries where I know that executives of direct selling companies have done jail time and had been released over time after a certain, whether it's just been a few days because something's being clarified, or they were actually in jail for an extended period of time, 6 months, whatever it might be. You can go online and you can look for these examples. I'm not going to go there, but they are there, and it happens. And every single country is different.
And you can't plead ignorance here.
No.
Ignorance in this space is absolutely no excuse, because you've got access to people like you've got access to compliance officers who can tell you what you are and are not doing according to the master plan.
Right.
And so you can't go back and say, hey, listen, I didn't know. No. They're not even going to, they'll laugh at you.
Nobody cares.
Nobody, no. Especially the regulators. They don't care, because they want to set an example.
Right.
They don't want this to happen again.
That's exactly right.
And so they're going to go after you as hard as they possibly can. Yeah. And that can be expensive.
Yeah.
And that kind of brings me around, if I may just bring it. I mean, you were involved in the regulators going after Amway in Europe, in England, I think it was, that it happened. Yeah. I'd like you to just tell that story.
So, without really going into too much of the detail, it's just the basic components that are online. They're in. I mean, you can go and you can. There was the Department of Trade and Industry attacked Amway's business model and activities and behavior, and basically we're talking about 3 different claims that involved illegal lottery because of the compensation plan and whatnot, and the second one, which I forget, and the third one, which is inherent objectionability, meaning you stink, right? They just didn't like it. But that was basically a lot of people running around talking about things and making claims and whatnot. And I think one philosophical thing to say is that every crisis has a warning. Everyone, irrespective of where it is, whether it's some, it might be a split second. There's always a warning. There's time to shut off the gas before an earthquake sometimes, right? And so on. And we had our warning signs. And some of the things we acted on, and we didn't act on all of them. And we went through this process where the Department of Trade and Industry wanted to wind us up. Now, for an American, to wind up something is like winding up a toy. But in the UK, winding up a company means we're closing them down. I had to learn that.
So how are they winding us up? Goody.
Yeah. And at the time, the DTI had a track record of 31-1. They had gone after 32 companies in their existence, and 31 of them were wound up. And they came after us, and they came up after our business model, and they came after our compliance negligence. And it was a long process, a very, very long process, very intense, building two different teams, a legal team and a commercial team, to address the issues and address the process and a legal process that you have to go through that went well over a year, together with the commercial team to address what needed to be addressed concerning the compliance issues that had been justifiably raised along the way. And at the end of the day, we changed. We made the adoptions and we made the corrections. And at the end of the day, Judge Cunningham, no, doesn't matter who it was. Anyway, he wrote his opinion, and the decision was in favor of Amway because we showed that we were there for the long haul. We showed remorse. We showed that we wanted to change. We showed that we were not compliant, but as soon as we saw the situation and it was put in front of us, that we made the proper changes. But we did it all after the fact, and that was the gray area. We did not know what judgment was going to be handed down.
So you weren't sure you were going to win?
It could have gone either way, and that's the serious. We did not know, and we were in the high court, and we were sitting there weeks on end, listening to the Queen's Counsel argue back and forth about our business. That was partially motivating and partially extremely painful, listening to the Queen's Counsel for the prosecution, for the DTI, attack us and attack our business, attack our credibility, attack our values, attack who we are, attack a 50-year-old business, right? Trying to say that we're fly by night. Well, we're not. Like, we didn't jump out the window and run the paper shredder and run for the hills or for the airport. We stood and fought. Yeah. And we did the right thing. We made the changes. But at the end of the day,
and you came back stronger. Let's just put that out there.
We did. We came back super strong. And we took the messages and we took the lessons learned, we called them, and we used those lessons learned, and we took those 7 lessons learned and put together a plan, and we implemented the things that we implemented in the UK. We used that and we went across all of Europe with those 7 lessons learned, and our entire business benefited because of the outcome of the UK. And it was a wake-up call. It was an important wake-up call. It was super tight along the way, and it could have gone either way. It really could have gone either way, and we were fortunate that our judge saw our integrity and he saw the right thing that we're doing along the way, and that we weren't running, and that we were there for the long haul. And all I can say is, there was a different way. There was a better way to do this. And had we been more compliant along the way, had we paid attention to distributor behaviors, instead of saying that the sale was more important than the way it was sold, okay, in summary, had we been more attentive to those things, we would have literally been about $8 million richer, because that's what it cost to defend.
$8 million. Now, if it was a company, a lesser company,
forget it.
That would have been done.
You would have lost. You would have been the representatives of the companies would have had to take the consequences, whatever those might be. You wouldn't have had the money to defend yourself.
So how did it happen? I mean, day one, the regulators, what do they do? Do they come in?
It really wasn't a day one like that. It was a process, and it was because there were things that were percolating in different regions, different areas, and a complaint would come in, and a regulator would ask a question, and it was very much under the radar screen. It was something that a marketer would have to answer, or a person from technical regulatory would have to answer, or there was a question about a customer service complaint, and these things. But then the topics they kept building, and then the same people, and then we saw that there was a connection it got elevated to the Department of Trade and Industry, and that all of a sudden there was an official letter that came in. It was this process. Literally, it happened. It's probably 2 years in coming, where there's these warning signals that were out there, and unfortunately we didn't raise that flag, that emergency flag fast enough to see it. We do, I can't today go back and say this is the day we should have seen it, right? We were all in we were opening up other markets, and our European management were focused on. There's no excuse, right? We had rules in place, we had processes in place, and we didn't follow our own rules and processes to the extent that we should have. Okay.
Now, at some stage, they must have served you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I mean, that must have sent shockwaves through the business.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you get served?
Internally.
Right. Well, internally, yeah.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. You get served, and then you start the process, and you get your lawyers in place, and you get your local best possible counsel that you can find, and then you find a Queen's Counsel. That's the person who's allowed to actually stand in front of the High Court and is registered and permitted to stand in front of the High Court and argue your case. And when you've got a Queen's Counsel and you've got your other legal companies involved and things like that, I mean, the hourly bill, you can imagine, it's pretty amazing.
Scary.
It starts a process, and that's when we formed the two teams. You got the legal team and you got the commercial team, and all of a sudden you change your focus, and we literally had our teams uprooted from wherever life was in order to completely address the issues. We had a presentation that we did, and had everybody basically located up there in north of London, and we had a plan to relaunch the entire business in 63 days, in advance of the beginning of the court case, and we did that. It was an amazing time, but it was so unnecessary. Hindsight, right? It was so unnecessary. Had we done other things, had we invested our time and our focus years earlier, it would all have been unnecessary. Right?
But you said an important thing. You said you had the systems and processes in place.
Yeah.
And so you knew what needed to happen?
Concerning distributor behavior and complaint management, yes.
Yeah. So you had that in place, but of course it's difficult. It's difficult to implement compliance when you fear that by doing that you're going to lose sales.
Yep. Which is why the process today, and any process, requires 4 eyes, not 2, okay? And always have a third party, internal staff of course, but a third party that is supporting the sales coordinator or the sales manager or the CEO for that matter in the decision-making process, right? Because they're building relationships with these people to grow the business and make the business happen, but there are infringements that have to be dealt with, and that's why you need the neutral person over here to handle the situation, right? And it's difficult. It is. Think of any family situation where your family is closer, and you're going to close an eye, depending on the behavior, whatever it might be. Your family's your penalty's not going to be as tough when it's your son as if it was your neighbor's son. Your neighbor's put him away for a week, or whatever. But it's your own son. Okay, all right, just don't do it again. Okay, that's kind of where we're at, right? And the bigger the pin, the higher the qualification, the deeper the relationship, the more we've been to incentives together with all of our wives and we've got this relationship, and now something's happening, and I've got to penalize you. I've got to take away your qualification. I'm going to take away your check. I'm going to terminate your business. That's tough. That's tough. It's a tough place to be, and it's not an enviable position to be in. And I've been in every place. I've made those lenient decisions, and I've made the tough decisions. And neither are right or wrong. It's always situation based. And we've taken out major distributors in Eastern Europe where we thought we were going to jeopardize the entire business, and we were scared of losing tons and tons of sales volume, but we did it anyway because we knew it was the right thing to do, and it didn't cost us a penny. We just we're so surprised. So where you think there's going to be a consequence to your decision, the real consequence to your decision is one that you don't know. And that's when the regulators or whatever the authorities are that are out there that are dealing with that kind of a topic, when they catch you for making a promise or for not being compliant, and there's actually a paper trail that shows you knew and you didn't act, then you're hung. And it's really difficult to get yourself out from under it.
And the thing is that, and this is what the CEOs out there need to know, the C-suite needs to be aware that the regulator doesn't come after you when you've got 5 people in your network.
No.
They wait, they don't, because you don't come onto their radar.
Yeah.
But suddenly you've got a $200, $300, $400 million company,
yeah.
and that's when they come after you.
Right.
And now you've got 5 years or whatever of non-compliance,
Yeah.
and literally they take you out.
Yeah.
And then the penalties are severe.
Right. This is why I have a problem with a particular sales line item that is called not for resale products.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Okay.
Yes.
Because if you have not for resale products, it means, in other words, these products are going to markets where they're not yet registered. It's just kind of happening across a border. Well, the other way I would, even if it's legally acceptable for whatever reason, I would categorize those as sales in unopened markets. Okay?
Yeah.
That's the truth about it. And not for resale is making myself feel good and categorize and legalize in my books a sale that's actually going to a market that's not open yet and should be. And there should be discussions with the distributors who are making that happen. The products are not yet registered. Maybe they're okay to be there, but as soon as you achieve critical mass in whatever that market that is, and and now they're making claims about products that aren't registered, and you get to a certain level, there might be a couple $1 million of product out in a marketplace somewhere. Then you start asking, and then your application process, your process to actually get there and then register the product, it's bass backwards, right? It's just the wrong place to be.
And the key thing is here that when you allow that to happen, you are complicit.
You're complicit, and you're going to pay for it later.
Yeah.
You have to, put the genie back in the bottle. No.
Well, you can't.
No.
And the thing is that the regulators, they've got nothing to lose.
They don't care. They have a rule book.
So when they serve you, it's not like they care about it. They think, and if you are not financially squared away to a point where you can actually spend $8 million fighting this thing, then you're just gone.
Yeah. And remember, and I hope that somebody will benefit from this statement out there. No matter what market you're in, if you have your rules of conduct, right? You have your distributor rules, whatever that document is, and so on and so forth. I don't know a market where you can copy and paste the rules from the United States and apply them to Germany or Vietnam or the Philippines or Japan or wherever else. They need to go through a due diligence process. They have to, because they're different all over the place. And even within the EU, the legal status of independent business owners, of how people are actually independently, or have their own businesses, are different in every single market in Europe. No matter what you think about the EU, the only thing that is a common denominator in the EU is the fact that they all use the same damn currency.
Yeah.
Right? But after that, it is a cluster. And I'm sorry, but it's true. And your legal status of how to do business as an independent business owner in Italy is different than Austria, and it's different than Germany, and so on and so forth. And you got to understand that. Same thing with simple things like vitamin supplement registration. They're different across all of these markets. There is no harmonization in these kinds of things yet. And I don't see it on the horizon. And so my advice is, if you're going to come to markets like this, get with people who've been here, who know it, who can walk you through a very quick process, a grid to understand where your products are, what radar screens are they on or not on. Check your business model, check your just do the due diligence and tick those boxes and make sure that you're not compensating people in the wrong way, that you understand the tax situations, how to pay, who pays VAT, who doesn't, where is it. Where do you pay taxes on incentive trips? Even there, right? It's value in kind in so many markets.
And who
pays the tax?
Pays the tax?
Who pays the tax? Another can of worms that you could. It's all part of compliance, right? Guess what? When there's an incentive trip, and somebody takes a trip and it's $10,000 per person or euro per person, the government will get their money. Because it is value in kind for somebody, right? And whether the company pays or the person pays. And if you don't pay the value, if you're a big pin and you've been going on incentive trips for 5 years.
And you haven't paid.
And you go through your back taxes, and all of a sudden they come and they get the company information about who was on the trips, and they send you the bill at one time, you could be facing a tax bill after the fact that you can't afford with your annual income.
And in some markets, what happens is that if the distributor hasn't paid their taxes, the company is liable.
Yes.
And
every market's different.
Yeah, and every market's different. Yeah.
Right, that's the point.
Yeah.
So that is a bit of a rabbit trail in itself. But it's, compliance has to be as important to the CEO and to the management of the company in order to avoid these things in the future. It's not, everybody can celebrate growth and those people on stage and everything like that, but man, it's not worth it.
Yeah. And the other thing is that you can come up with your creative story that justifies what you're doing.
Sure.
Okay. The prime example is we're not taking them on an incentive. This is a training course that we are paying for these things. But the compliant officer, the regulator who comes in, he's not an idiot.
He's not going to believe that.
Yeah, not for a minute. Mm-mm. And so you can come up with whatever stories you like, but you need to understand that the guy's coming in there to check on you, not a fool.
Yeah.
And he's going to see right through your ruse in a heartbeat. Yeah. And he's going to say, please, don't pull the wool up. As a matter of fact, that's a big negative, because there it shows you were deliberately trying to hoodwink him.
And the German government says that 80% of the trip must be 80% of the trip, of the time spent on the trip must be business, and you have to be able to document that you were. So you've got a 4-day incentive, and you're going to document that you just did 32 hours of business meetings over a 4-day period. Guess what? And then you got an incentive video that shows everybody at the pool.
Well, exactly.
Guess what?
Okay. Exactly. And then you've also got to be seen to have informed your network that if they come on this incentive, they have to declare it on their tax bill, and it's got to be documented that it's there. Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. One of the things that we've done with our system, and I don't like to go back to that, but we've actually created courses that you have to pass to get your promotion, or you have to pass to go on the incentive. Right. And during those courses,
I understand my tax.
During the course, we talk to them about a video about how the tax works, etc. And then we have a questionnaire. When they've answered it, they've got to get a pass mark of 80% or above. But what we have then is a record in the system that this person has done the course, understands what the rules are, and if they disobeyed it, then that is solidly on them. Right. So it's also to create that paper trail to show that the company is being compliant. We're telling the people what to do. You haven't got control over where they put it on. You're not sitting there in the room when they're putting their tax form.
Right.
But it's your responsibility to make sure they're informed. Now, if you don't, then you're responsible. You're the person liable.
Right. Yep.
Hectic. Okay, so now the
Great
guys,
topic, though.
Hey, the
Great
guys
topic.
come in, they take you out, and so let's just go back to re-spinning all of the key points. If you are not compliant, they are going to catch you.
When you get critical mass, yeah.
And the reason they're going to catch you, a couple of reasons. Number one, you are taking somebody else's lunch. There's another network marketing company out there who is compliant, who sees you doing something non-compliant, and is going to report you.
Yep.
Because they see you're eating their lunch and you're doing it unfairly.
Yep.
So they're going to come after you.
Yep.
Or you irritate somebody in your own team who goes to the regulators and reports you for being non-compliant. So the one thing that is, you can absolutely take it to the bank. As soon as you get critical mass, you can be guaranteed that the regulators are going to come after you.
Yep.
Number two, if they come after you, you better have extremely long arms and extremely deep pockets, because it's going to cost you an absolute fortune.
Yep.
If you lose, the consequences could be as bad as jail time. Definitely, they're going to wipe you out financially. Definitely.
Yep.
There's going to be enormous reputational damage, because the newspapers just love to see a big corporation brought to its knees.
Yep.
And your name and your face and your image is going to be plastered over everything.
Yep.
Ponzi scheme head does defrauds 4,000 people, 40,000, whatever.
Yep.
And lastly, obviously, there's the whole ethical side of it. The reason the compliance is there is so that the business is run ethically, morally, and legally.
Right.
Okay. So I think those are the things that we've actually discussed in this.
Yeah. Absolutely. And not taking the right action at the right time is also not doing justice to those who are doing the business the right way at the exact same time.
And sorry, the one other thing that you mentioned earlier on, which I'd just like to bring you back to, is the fact that if the company is responsible for the livelihoods of everybody in their network.
Yes, and they are, and you've got whatever group or size of people that are earning money along the way, and if the company, for whatever reason, goes through this reputation issue or legal battle or whatever, or worse, then the people who have put their trust in you and in Blue Sky, all of a sudden that's gone, and some of them put in a lot of time and hours and family time and maybe years of work, and all of a sudden that opportunity is gone. There's a huge responsibility, right? It's bigger than just the fine that you might have to pay or whatever, right? It's that responsibility to all those people who believed in you and rely on you to do the right thing. Yeah.
And so when you are not sanctioning a key leader who's doing something unethical, illegal, etc., you're actually putting everybody at risk. And there's an ethical issue there.
Yeah.
It's your responsibility as a company owner to make sure that you are keeping your people and your company compliant.
Yeah, look at your value statement. Okay, does it align? Right? Is not taking action, is that in line with the beliefs of who you want people to believe you are?
So in retrospect, with the Amway thing, if you guys could roll back the clock, would you have sanctioned some of the people that were doing the wrong things?
Yeah, no question.
No question. And you did it throughout the rest of Europe. But it's a shame for a company out there, a person in the C-suite of a company out there, to not be taking action now when they've heard this particular story.
Yeah.
I hope this is a wake-up call. I hope this is a cautionary tale. I hope people getting into this industry take this seriously. And you guys have got some really great compliance people in your space, haven't you?
Yeah, sure.
Just let's hit the. I mean, we haven't mentioned the company name for a while here.
That's fine. No, our consulting company is DiSSECT. We're direct selling consultants. That's all we do. Everybody who is a partner or an associate with DiSSECT is a former executive from the direct selling industry. We're not bringing in other blue chip people. We all have drank the Kool-Aid of direct selling, of multi-level marketing. We love this industry, and we want to help companies along the way. We want to be their accelerator. We want to be their partner, and help them with issues, whether it's opening markets, whether it's compliant issues. It doesn't matter. We have experts, true executive experts from every single function of the direct selling industry that we use on different projects, depending on what they are. And that's who we are. We're based out of Europe, but our associates and our strengths are equally good in the U.S. And also in Asia because of my time there as well. So that's who DiSSECT is.
Okay, and obviously we'll have all the links in the videos so that they can find you, your cell number, your...
That's not why we're doing it.
No, 100% agreed, but it's obviously important because there's guys out there who are going to desperately need some help here, who are probably sitting with compliance issues that they need to deal with immediately.
Give us a call, happy to help.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, thank you, Mark.
All right.
Good one.
Richard.